I'll continue to record when it comes to that. So, first things first, I'm going to pull these notes. Now, you'll notice that these notes, oh, that's on the assignment. I won't show you that one yet. These notes are SolidWorks, but there's a few things about it today which, when I was going through this, I've always been aware that Autodesk and Inventor are very, very similar. Autodesk, Inventor and the SolidWorks are very similar. I did personally find the SolidWorks process a little bit easier. Only a little bit. And as we're going through, I want to try and show you. So as I said, I'm going to upload these the video from yesterday straight after this. So I'll upload these two together. First things first, I'm just going to download. Oh, apologies. Goodness. So I'm just going to download Surface Boundary. And I'm just going to I'm going to download these to my desktop. I hate looking at these on here, even though they say it's a perfect viewer. I hate looking at them on there. So I'm just going to close that. So that's where they've come from. Let me just come down to here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to open with, and I'm going to go, I'll just open it with Google. Right, so splines. Splines are amazing. They are your best friend, but they can also be your worst enemy. What you'll realise here is all my lines are blue, apart from my black line here, but all the other lines are blue, and this is purely because there is very little that's really constrained at this point. This is very, very movable, this is very changeable and very interchangeable, and it makes life good in one way, tricky in another. It makes life okay in some cases, but I tell you what, before I start dogging this to death, let's start on producing these. So the spline and the controllers. So let me just open up my Inventor. I've even got my demo one up as well, just in case something goes wrong for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from my YZ plane. What I'm looking to do is make the first sketch. This is where it becomes really tricky, really tricky. So, to show you what we're actually looking at, this is what's called a two-point spline. So it's got a start and an end. Now the spline is originally been devised by a French mathematician called, if anybody's French and I pronounce this wrong, apologies, Bézier. And what he did is he came up with using linear lines to actually present a bend. And this bend, originally he was looking at bending aluminium, he was looking at deforming aluminium, and he was trying to calculate how to do that. Came up with some phenomenal calculations, but what they were able to do once we got into the new age of the computer is they're able to take that theory and apply it to what we see to our everyday CAD system, hence the spline. And these markers here show that original thing that he was doing. It shows that constraint, and it shows in essence exactly what he was doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to first create the 3-point curve, so 3-point arc, this 3-point arc here, and we're going to use Inventor to generate it. There's two things I want to show you today, so what I want to do first is do that. So I've gone 3-point arc, and I'm going to bring my overall size to roughly there. Now the reason I went from the datum is, if you look on here, the datum is actually located there. So I've gone from that datum, and what I'm going to do is put on my distance between there and there. This distance now is 38.1, and now this, oh, look at that, that's a swine. So let me go horizontal, vertical, because it's going X and Y, it's because I'm looking at it from a different perspective, that's why it was doing that. So I've just locked them in with a vertical. And what I should be able to do is make it bigger, make it smaller, as ever, just shrink to whatever. Now what I actually want to do is, I want to recreate my arc here, my maximum measurement here. Now, sadly, Inventor does not contain the ability to be able to measure outside of a minimum for an arc. If anybody does know that, please let me know. I've been racking my brain to actually regenerate that, and it's bugged the living god out of me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go about this the conventional way, which is apply a construction line and make it normal to on here, and then make that totally vertical in relation to the arc. Then what that'll do is allow me to create this. So my 5.715 millimeters. What I'm essentially doing is creating the cup of the spoon, or the, however you want to class it. So I'll go 5.715, and that now gives me that particular shape. And just to show you what we've done, we've created this shape. So now what I want to do is I want to now take the next step. This next step, no matter which CAD system you use, this next step of creating this changeable spline is a bit problematic. Well, it's not problematic, it's temperamental in some ways. It's delicate, so let's say. Now I can either use an interpolation or control vertexes. Now the way that I've presented it on the notes, it is an interpolation method. So what I'll do is perhaps go interpolation and unclick my construction, come from the edge of the spoon, and then give myself a distance. Well, in fact, to be sure, I'm going to put it down there for the minute and click OK. Now, the reason I've done that is there's a few things we can do, but first things first, I just want to just examine this. Now, if you go on here, if you click onto it, and then you click there, and you go, what was it? I don't, why? It acts like a line. And one function, which I must admit, as a student, I wasn't aware of. One function I was never clear about is we've got these weird-looking lines here. These lines are called the controls. Now, if I left click once onto the control, then right click, what you'll get on this list is you'll see there you've got activate handle. So if I activate the handle, what you'll then see is that it becomes tangent. And you go, okay, that doesn't really tell me much, but first let's just get the other side activated as well, because we're going to manipulate these. So come over to that handle as well, right click on it, activate handle. And all you've done now is you've made it so we can now manipulate single line. So we can now move these handles and it will move. Now these two marker handles will literally work like a normal handle. But these handles now will allow me to export the line. It'll allow me to literally construct that, contract the line, or it will allow me to manipulate its flow of the line. These tools here are amazing for what we want to do. So they're bang on. They're really good. But then if I want to move this completely, I've got my mid marker here. Now my mid marker allows me to move its orientation. Often getting back onto it can be a bit problematic, but luckily it's playing ball today. So, first things first, let's just come back and let's just examine exactly what we're looking at. See here, we've got the 3-point arc, and then we've got a tangent where it flows upwards onto the actual edge. So let's do that. Let's take a look at this tangent and let's get that into play. Now this is dead easy. This is really easily done. It's one of those where you go, wow, that was ace. So, look at his constraints. We've got all the selections that we need. Now, under tangent, Now it's literally saying, as you'd imagine, as you've had to listen to for years and years on end, give me a tangent marker to actually operate to. So I select my spline, I select my 3-point arc, okay, let's just put it on there. So I've actually done it on my my control. Now the reason I've done it on the handle is I quite like this. I can still use that, but what you'll notice now is we've no freedom around there anymore. We're only operating relative to the tangent. We're now getting in a but the beauty is you look at that as a flow, it flows beautifully right from there straight into here. What we can do with this, we can make really, really odd looking spoons, which I don't know if that's the right way of describing what I meant, but we can do all types of different things with that. So what I'm going to do is just bring this around and get it lined up. We are going to do more with this as of yet. Now the distance between these two, I'm going to go dimension, I'm going to come from my midpoint here, and then right to the end of the tip of the spoon, we're going to, yes, oh, what's it restricted by? Oh, it's not happy with it. Oh, I tell you, I was going so well. Let me try that again. So let's go from the tip of the spoon to here. Can't think what that would be restricted by. Oh, that's gone so well, so well. So I'm just going to deactivate my handle just for the minute, and I want to see if that's going to allow me to do the distance across that way. There you go. So I deactivated the handle. I suppose what it was referring to is it wasn't happy with restricting that handle. This dimension now goes 139.7 millimeters. Oh wow, that's actually come out pretty nicely as that. I genuinely didn't think it was going to come out looking so nice there, but it really did. What I'll do is just click back onto, let me come off here. Escape on there, come back onto here. I'm going to reactivate my handle. So activate the handle, and we've got a tangent relationship coming from there, which is nice. And if I click onto, come on. I'm going to just see if I can. I'm going to give a little bit more body to it. You'll notice I've just slipped off, which is not good. So what I want to do is to create a vertical between, whoops, not that. I'm going to come back onto here. I'm going to now deactivate the handle again, and I just want to create a vertical between it. If you remember, this is because of the component we're operating in. So if I then click on my midpoint here, and then I choose my vertical here, it then just snaps it up. Oops. And now we've got our handle shape that we wanted. Now again, if I'm not happy with it, I can right click and activate the handle, and then I can simply move things up or move it more aggressively like this, or back down, or something like that. Quite a depth of the spoon is that. I might just move it back in a little bit. Quite a meaty spoon. Right. So as a starting point, I'm actually quite happy with the flow. The beauty is I can come back, I can change it, and I can update that. So I'll come back, and that is my first point ready to go. Now the next thing, this is a little bit more tricky, not much, but between these two sketches, these are the ones that tend to get people really annoyed. So please, bear with me. I promise you, we will get to a nice solution. Let me zoom in. If we look at here, what we've actually got is we've got a construction point which leads from each point on the original curve that we put on there. This then connects all the way around and actually gives us a key construction. Now what we're going to do is we're going to then bring in a 4-point spline. Now if you look, again, this is all freedom, it has full freedom for motion. What this is this line starts perpendicular, well this lead starts, well vertical actually, and then follows down, this point moves, and it's still got that freedom to move. So there's still very much that loose end there, if you will. But the reason I've done this is we are moving to that idea of what do you do when you've got no dimensions, apart from get really annoyed and throw things at a screen and shout, why did you not do that? Because that's what I do. When that comes down and then it interconnects here and then here. So that's what we're going to do now. So I'm going to come back out, and then from this point I just now need the plane which operates, in this case it would be the top plane, but in our case it's the XZ plane. So I'm going to sketch, I'm going to zoom in, and first I'm going to set up my construction. So I'm going to do my interpolation spline, and to make life easier I'm just going to go to my origin, which is here, come back down, I'm going to put it there, only because if you looked then it wasn't locating to my edge. Now I suspect it's not locating because I need to project that geometry. So I'm just going to track along to the end point and then click these two together by going constraint, this point to that point. I know it's meant to be, oops, that's me. I know it's meant to be construction, and I know it's meant to be bent. In this case, all I'm doing is I'm just setting things up first. Now, what I want to do is just spin back round, and you see, if I left click on that line again, you'll see it goes blue because it's locating these, our handles. So I'm going to right click again, activate handle, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, right click, activate handle, then go to the top, and now if I left click on the handle and bring it out, and again I'm just going to left click on that handle and bring it out. Right, so we're looking different. What I really need these to be now is perpendicular to here. Now I can see it's instantly going to start complaining. It's what this system does. It's good at complaining. So I'm going to go project geometry. I'm going to go and make me whatever I project a construction. I'm going to select off here. Now this is very, 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 very useful. We've now got our spline onto here, and we've now got this as a reference point. So what I'll do is go to the top, come back in, and if I... Now what I actually want to do is I want to make this handle perpendicular to our new construction line. So I'm going to go perpendicular constraint, my handle to my construction. Again, repeat the same thing on the other side. My handle to my construction, and now we're looking pretty slick, if I'm honest. So now what I want to do is left click on here, and I'm going to turn that into construction lines themselves. Now this now allows me to define what distance my spoon's going to sit at. So if I pull on the handle and stretch it right out, or go right in, I'll sit it to something. I'm looking for the ideal egg shape, if you will. But if you're in a position where you don't know your dimensions to operate to, this in essence allows you to do that. But the beauty is if we can dimension this. We could dimension this. We can tune the spoon. Oh, I tell you, I'm full of jokes today. Now, what we now want to do is build on our construction straight over the top. So we've now got this main construction line in. If you look to your lower and your upper, what you've got again is these handles that are in play. What I'm going to do though, interestingly, is I'm probably going to leave on my handles. What I'll do, yeah, let me think. Yes, I will. I'll leave my handles on. No, in fact, no, I won't. I think I'm going to deactivate my handles for the minute, just because I'm happy with where they're sitting. But if I need to change things, I can obviously come back. But if I need to change things, that's an option. Right. So let's come back in. And now what I want is 4 points. So I want one here. I always start here. It's a nice point to start. Now don't forget, this is interpolation. And also, I forgot to turn off my construction. Silly sod. Already. Almost making mistakes. So I'm going to click onto here. 1. 2. Oh, it's 3, sorry. So I've got my starting point 3 and then 1 here, roughly there, for 4. And click OK. Doesn't look nice yet. I say yet because I know it doesn't look nice. So what I'm going to do is activate my handle. And what I want to do is now try and make this handle collinear with this handle. Now I can't remember whether I need to turn that handle back on, but we'll see. So I've got my handle activated here. I'm going to go up the chain and keep doing this, but this is my key starting point to copy this flow. Right, so I'm going to go collinear. I want this. Is it going to let me? Oh, you shizer. Right, so it's not letting me. That's a swine. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to activate my handle. Let's see if that'll let me. So collinear. Failure to this, we can just simply. So we've got collinear. This is collinear to this. Right, so you see now I'm actually, this construction is in control of this spline. So I'm going to bring that back in. Ah, now look, I forgot to make this vertical. So let me just check that I am looking at a vertical in this case. Let me check. Ah, no, we're going horizontal in this one because again it's on this datum it's referring to, which is a weird experience I do appreciate. Right, that's better. So now if I move, I can only move in that component set, which is ideal. Look at that, that's done it as well. It's okay, I'll change that. I'll change that in a minute. So now that allows me to control my line that little bit more to try and get it roughly to where I want it to be. This has just gone a little bit belly up, so I'm going to activate that handle again. And I want this to be a horizontal on that line. Like that. Look at that. What a swine. We'll bring that back in just to give me that egg shape. And now I'm going to I'm probably going to deactivate this handle. So now we've got this point and this point. Now to show you what I'm doing is if I zoom in, you can see how this has been constructed. We have that construction here. We've got that perpendicular based on that line, and we got that perpendicular based on that line. And what we want to do is we want to try and lock these into position. So I actually want to make this, I want to make this point concentric to this construction, like that. Now there is a reason for it. The distance from the datum on that is, on dimension, I'm going to go from this point to this point, and this now is brought back to 3.099, whoops, 99, Brings that back. And we're looking at a little bit more healthier-ish. So I'm going to click out of there. And see here, we've got a handle. So I'm going to right click, activate my handle. And I'm going to try and just give me a rough shape which allows me to match against it. And yeah, okay, I mean, perhaps that spoon's a little bit too... Just to try to stay relative to the notes. You see here, we've got the small gap. So that's what I'm essentially trying to do here, just to give it that freedom around where that curve goes. Then what I'll do is, again, I'm just going to switch that handle off. And now it's starting to look a little bit more like I was after. Happy days. So I'm going to bring that down. Oh, you look at that. That's actually played with that like I didn't want it, to be honest. We're going to fix that in just a second. Right, so handles wise here, I'm going to activate this handle here because this handle is well wrong. Bring that round. Okay. Now he's probably complaining because I've restricted so many different things. Could be something. Yes, okay. It's not happy with me putting this dimension on there. Just to fix this, I'm going to take that back up, and I'm probably going to have to go back and fix that. Yeah, you see there, and it's still not quite happy. But once I get this into position, then I can do that. What I do know from looking at the drawing itself is there is a key marker which makes them both horizontal to each other. So again, I'll do a horizontal. Now you see here, I can't pick up on here. So what I'm going to do is take on my geometry and make a construction and just go from that point. And that's all I was doing. Just so I can borrow that reference. And I could even do a construction line if I wanted, but with this it's simply a horizontal on there and also on there. Now you see this? This comes up quite a lot. Now the reason this is coming up is because I left my handle activated. It doesn't like you to try and constrain handles like that if you've got things that are freely flowing in such a way. It's not a happy bunny, let's say, if we do that. So what I've got to do is reactivate it once it's been put in its position. You'll see now it's only moving around that particular point. So all I want to do is, whoops, all I want to do now is bring that from here. Has that switched off? Has that switched off? Looks like it's switched off. No, it's on. This is where they become problematic, these things. Spinning the swine round. Okay, let me see if I can make this vertical. Whoops, not that one. So what I'm going to do is try and make this lower one vertical and see if it'll allow it to spin round. That's not worked well for me there at all. It's going so well, so well. There we go. And now what I'm going to try and do is make this one vertical. Now the reason I'm doing that is we have horizontal between these two and we have a vertical, and then this handle is restrained to 6.35 millimeters. So I come back in again using that point, which I might as well, then coming from here, and I can go, except yeah, it's not happy with that. This is just because I've left the bloody handle activated. So I'm going to deactivate the handle and then come back and then slick onto here, and this now becomes 6.350. Slamming that into place like that. and then the handle, being a massive pain in the backside, has now lost that constraint, just that beautiful constraint I've just added, and it's gone. There we go. Right, let's try this again. So I'm going to go vertical. Right. Now I'm not going to do anything with that now, because it might break and annoy me even more. So I've just clicked escape, and what I'm going to do now is try and bring this into play. This one now is, I may switch that handle on. Now this is the upsetting bit. This has now been pushed around and it looks like it's just been abused. So what we want to do now is, I'm going to activate, oh, the handle's already activated. Oh, you swine. So what I'm going to do is dimension this, there. This now is restricted to not that, 3.099. Back in a little bit there. Right, so what I'm going to do is just come back to here, because lost that again, and it's probably because I'm deactivating and switching the handle on every 2 minutes. So now what I need to do is just make that perpendicular once again, which is annoying really, but on this handle I should be able to start pushing this back round. A little bit more like that. Back in, come on you swine. It's just to push that round. It's still not happy with me making these changes. Unless it's because I'm changing too much down here. No. Take that dimension off. Not happy with that dimension for some reason. Okay. So finally, I'm just going to use this handle to just try and smooth out that. So here, if I can just spin you a little bit. I mean, arguably, we could go for a greater body on that side, or less of a body. It just becomes onto that really of how we're going to progress that body. Right. So now we're on this position. We've now got 2 particular drawings, and last thing that we want to do is we want to put on a plane on here, because what we're going to do is now create the profile of the spoon all the way up. Now the beauty is with this is we can create an entire flow from tip of the spoon right to the top, and then look to start trimming things out. Apologies, 1 second. Right, so we've now got that profile, and arguably, I mean, you could sit there and go, well, is that body too wide? But what we do is first get this into position, get this into a sizing, and you'll see that on these notes in particular, I'd chosen some dimensions already, so at least then we knew what was going to be happening and what we could essentially do. 2 seconds. I've just realised we had a question. Apologies, I've only just realised, so let me just pause. Right, so I'm just going to add this dimension in, and I'm actually going to draw this circle in. You'd be amazed now with these two very complex splines, because let's face it, they're a difficult thing to get together and getting them right. What we can do now is we can do all sorts. What you should really realise is it's really in the sketch. It's really in that process of the sketch and getting the sketch just right, and that's what the most difficult thing is within this. So what I'm going to do is set a spline, and I'm going to set a plane. Now this plane is based from the offset of the centre, so I'll go offset from plane. And let me just see which plane we're looking at. So we're looking at the XY plane. Just double check. We are looking at the XY plane. And what I want to do is move 19.5 millimeters, or 38.1 over 2. What you see is it sits bang in the middle of our arc. I'm going to need this geometry to give me a point in space to operate with. So first things first, let's go on this plane, let's set up a sketch. So I set up that sketch. I don't need this anymore, so I'm going to hide that. And I do this because otherwise it will leave me really confused and a bit frustrated with what exactly I'm meant to be doing. I'm going to add a circle. Then what I'll do is I'm going to use a construction line. I'm going to quarterize this circle. So I'm going to go there to there, and centre to here to here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim here and here. This now gives me my my arc. So what I'll do is go collinear. Oh, hang on a second. Let me just put on a dimension. Just realised I've not even added the dimension. So my radius of this now should be 15.842 millimeters. Very specific. 15.842 millimeters, and then we're on to there. Now, if I go collinear, adding the collinear relationship between, oh look at that, I forgot to add that in. So I'm going to project my geometry from there, go collinear relationship from there to there, and now what I should be able to do is move freely up and down as you should be able to do, and then I'm going to make a coincident between this point and this point. And this now gives me my my spoon profile that I'll be moving towards. I just want to keep an eye on questions and things just in case, because it's not coming through every 2 minutes, that's all. So right, we've now got our sketches pretty much nailed. Now it's just fine tuning, it's changing, looking at what's happening. So I'm going to click end of sketch, and let's start bringing some of these together. So let's do a sweep. Now with my sweep, I'm going to choose this. Well, I could do two ways. I could either do this as my profile and this as my path. I know it looks a little bit not like a spoon at this point, but it's going to give me my first overall shape. So I'll click OK. Now if you look from above, we've now got the ultimate trimming tool. We can run a sketch to here and then trim outwards. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use what I've already done, my base master sketch. I'm going to use that for what I've already done, and I'm just going to add a little bit to it. So I've gone onto a sketch coming from the XZ plane, and now what I'll do is go project geometry from this sketch, and then all I'm going to do is add a profile from here to just inline here, and just that. That's all I'm going to do. And now all I want to do now is start to trim things away. So click OK, and I'm going to go trim. In my trimming tool it says select your cutting tool. So I'm going to select this as my cutting. In fact, let me just see if I can. I need to hide that sketch because it's going to get very confusing otherwise. So I'll just hide that sketch, and I'm going to use this last sketch as a cutting tool mechanism. So I'm going to go trim. I'm going to go this as my cutting tool, and let's see what it will allow me to cut. Now that's not brought in everything like I hoped it would. So what I will do is I'm going to go back onto here, onto this sketch, and I'm just going to trim this back end away so I can cut just a spoon off. So I'm going to edit that sketch. And I want this bit trimming away. So can I trim? Can't yet because it's still constrained. So what I'll do with that is and all I've done is deleted my constraints off, and now I'm simply going to trim away the bits that I don't want. In this case it's just that, and then OK. Hopefully that should allow me to project through, but let's see. So again, I'll go trim, choose this as my cutting tool, and what do I want to remove? I want to remove that, and there is my first profile of my spoon. Now what I want to do is bring these sketches back in, because these are now going to take me to the next phase that I need to do. So I'm going to make this visible. And we see what we've got here. Got the profile across. Oops, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to make this visible. Now, what I've done with this is I've made this a flat end spoon. I can, remember at the beginning where we had this spline, I can push it upwards if I want to give it more of a rise on the back, to put more of a profile into there, or not. In fact, we'll do that in just a second, but this is going to allow us to get that profile in position. So the next thing I now really want is I want a plane to sit interface on these two. Now because they're horizontal, it should allow me to do that, no problem. So what I think I'll do first is I want a profile to flow nicely from that edge. Every spoon has that continuous flow to the end and you go, oh yeah, it's a nice spoon. So what I'll do is go plane, I'm going to go normal to curve, and I'm going to select on here and on that point there, like that. This now gives me just a nice simple plane to operate with. If you remember, that function is one that we've used quite a few times on advanced lofting and things like that. Because it's linearized between the two, I'm going to first go to my project geometry. I want that point and I want that point, and I'm simply going to draw a line at this point. At this point, I'm going to draw a line, and it just creates a profile. That's all it's done. So I'm going to hide that first, and let's try and start building this in. So let's do a loft. Choose that. Choose another edge. And what I want to do is, this is where it becomes a real pain in the backside. See, what I did then is I've right clicked. I'm going to see if I can just select a section onto there. Oh no, I don't want that. Oh, that was my mistake. That was my mistake. Try that again. As I said, I've got my demonstration one as well, ready and willing, because it was frustrating me earlier. There's a particular function which could not get the blasted thing to move like I wanted it to. Okay, so let's try that again. Now, I'm gonna so let's try it again. Now this can come down to, no, that's okay. So I'm gonna do loft, this profile, to this, to this profile, and we want to add I had to click it a couple of times to get it to come in. It's a real tricky one because you select it and there's never any guidance. I'll show you what I was doing. There's never any guidance on this. There is a lot of intelligent functions that are incorporated into this system, and you go, it's great being intelligent, but if you can't tell me what you're doing, you're no good. And that's what can come across with this. So if I click on there and you go look and you go, click it, and you go, well, what? Click it again. What you do is you center out your profile that you want to go to, then you click it again to see the area that you want to use. Does anything tell you that? No, it doesn't. It just says, should have known that. And that's a little bit frustrating. So click OK. And now if I hide these two, and as we've done before, I need to now stitch these together to make these, because it's still counting these as separate faces. So what I want to do is just simply stitch them. So I'm going to stitch you, maintain as a surface, and click apply. Now what we've got is one piece that we can operate to. I'm going to simply mirror that feature, sorry that's appeared over here, that feature, and use my mirror plane. You can see there I can either go YZ, and in this case it is the YZ, so if I click YZ, it's a very quick way of doing it. That's a function that I think is great, really good. I'm going to do an identical or adjustment, but we'll just go identical. And then, I mean, my spoon handle's a little bit wide there, I would say. So if I go stitch, stitch you, and stitch you, click apply, maintain it as a surface. And now we've got, you'll notice that the entities have been sealed as to one piece, just because it's curved. And now, if I simply go to my thicken, where is my thicken? Thicken. And I'll select the whole thing, and it's a 1mm thickness. So if I just click apply, or not, I'm going to go inwards then, which is much of a cheat. story of my life with this, it really is. Let me just have a quick look where it's complaining. The swine, I swear to God. Okay, let me just remove that stitch. Just need to look to see if I've caused any major issues there. I don't think I have, which, well, I obviously have, or else it would thicken straight away. Let's just try that. So I'll just thicken this side and just see. Just because I'm curious as to if there is something in particular that's gone wrong with that. Ah, now I think, oh, look at that, I see it. Oh, you swine, that's what it is. See how we've got an overlap? They're actually sitting just on the top of each other. Ah, I'd have found that, because that would have really annoyed me. This is coming because it makes me wonder if that back end is actually just missing. Oh, that's a swine, is that? Look at that. So I'm just going to delete my mirror. It's the technique I used. Oh, look at that. There's a really thin edge. Let me just see where that runs to, and then we're going to send that the way of the dodo. Yep. Okay, so what's happened is when I've probably trimmed my arc, I didn't trim it properly or closely enough to that particular edge, and that's caught me out. So all I'm going to do is just delete the face, because I know that is obsolete. See how far that face goes. Let me just make sure it doesn't go any further. I don't think it does, because it's come from that floor to the back, so just click OK. And now I've got rid of that face. It should now give me what I'm after. So again, I'm going to choose the feature, in this case the entirety of the thing. Choose my component being my YZ component set. Then OK. And there's less interaction. Oh, look at that, it's still making something there. Okay, so let me go trim. Just did a quick trim just to get rid of it. Now, now it better thicken. Oh, I need stitching. I'm going to do a stitch, you and you. Maintain as a surface, apply and done. So then I'm going to do a thicken of that. And do internal. Oh, either way, it doesn't really matter. It should now do it. Thank you. So, I'll just hide my surface for the moment. Now you'll notice what this system does is it continuously generates ghost parts. These ghost parts are referable back. You can extract each one of these ghost parts, and it allows you to do different things. It's pretty cool for what it can actually do. So my surface body here, for example, if I go back, you'll see all the ghost parts that exist. But with Inventor, when the surface body parts are turned off, they're actually no longer visible completely, and you can just move continuously onwards from then on as a surface, as a solid. So you have that ability to jump backwards and forwards. They do remain totally related, but it just allows it to almost save a temporary behaviour, if you will. For the view, if I just turn that off, just to take a look at it as a shade, and yeah, that's not giving me too much, but it just gives you an idea. If I go to my Inventor view, let me just see if we can find something polished. Polished chrome. Yeah, it's Granted, this single side on this handle here, what I could do is I could go back to my original sketch and edit. So on this original sketch, you know how we made this vertical in relation to everything else, so it was all in line. If I move this upwards any, I can actually give it more of a curve, of an arc, if you will, to where it's going to flow between. And granted, it can be even more sexy. It's just about creating them distances, and it's about creating that profile that you're looking for. Right, so so that is using, let me just turn that to something a bit more with lines. So that's using splines and what splines can do. Splines in this case can be really useful. My curve here, by the way, has appeared because of the way it's been trimmed and the way I've done the two sketches over it. If I want to fine tune these even more, if you look at here, you can see how that profile comes up, and that profile was pretty good. Well, at least I liked it. And then if you look on the lower sketch here, and this has come because of that distance there. So if I trim that in slightly, this will bring this wall down, because the trim state will become bigger. If I wanted, I could insist on more of a flow between there, but that is in essence how to fix that straight out right, to make it even more circular. I mean, at the minute it looks more like an ice cream spoon. But that is as I said, that is your profiles. We could easily now take that and simulate it, simulate eating ice cream off it, or using this to change a bike tire, which is a common example. So that's gone a lot more smooth than what it did yesterday, to be honest. As before I crack on with other things, is there any burning questions about what we've done there? Has anybody had an issue with trying to get their splines working? Again, I appreciate that some of you will have done splines before. Splines are incredibly useful for generating really complex curves, but it comes really down to just experience and getting used to using the handles and using the profiles for them handles. One thing I did realise on this sketch, I forgot to put in my 45-degree angle from datum to here. I can easily add that, but that will bring this angle further down. To show you where I'm at on the notes, I just forgot to add. Where is it now? Yeah, I've forgotten to add that 45-degree from the handle there, and I could do with adding that in, but to show you the difference between the two, I'll just show you the one that I'd made earlier. So look at the difference between the two. It's not much at all, but that is restricted to that 45-degree angle. It just depends. So as I said, that is using splines and the use of splines. You'll notice that in the notes as well, I talked about in SolidWorks, it's a tool called boundary tools. Now in Inventor, this is a tool that does not exist. It's a default tool which is quite common, and a lot of people do use the boundary tool. In here you do have some boundary methods, and one that we've used before, which is the boundary patch. Now the boundary patch just works on the idea of constraint areas, and then it will try to patch around specific targets. But in this case, the best way to be able to achieve this was loft and sweep, and that's what I found. If you may have found difference, you may have found a little change in that, but it just depends what your experience is and what you've done with it so far, if you will. Right, as I said, I want to save that. because there is another set of notes that I wanted to take you through and take you through the use of them. And then, yeah, I'm going to leave this session open for questions, or if anybody's got any issues, or anybody wants any help with anything, I'm going to leave this session open for that. So, let me just come to my note sets. So this was using that. As ever, I will upload my model once I'm done, and then you can take a look at what my solution for that was and how I got to that solution. So I'm going to go uclan. And first I'm going to download the second set of notes. It's not a big one, it's not a difficult one, but this is just an insight to any of you guys who are unsure about if you're given something to start with, where do you start from? One of the most common questions I've been asked in the past was my Iron Man helmets, where they came from, where that profile came from. I'm going to show you now how I've done it in the past. I just realised that I've just had a bad network come up. I'm going to show you how I've done it in the past, and then give you an insight as to what you can do and how you can set yourself up if you're given something to do and you don't know where to start. This is a method known as sketch pictures. So I'll go to sketch pictures and I'm just going to download. Going to download these notes. I'm probably actually not going to open them, just because the process of setting these up is dead straightforward. Right, so the idea of a sketch picture allows you to put pictures over the actual planes to give you a rough guidance as to wheelbase, wheel positioning, or body positioning, or extracting an important data set that you need to operate around. Like for us, when we've been doing the skeleton, what we've been doing is using heights of the average 90 percentile, and then we've been putting that into a stick drawing actually on our CAD system that we're using. Actually, the CAD system we're using for that is Inventor. And then with that, what we do is we essentially use that as a master sketch, and then we draw around that to make sure that our proportion remains in good perspective. But if you're doing something and you need to know where the wheels are, or if you're directly trying to model a representation of something, getting started with that can be quite tricky. Often going onto YouTube and watching someone else's tutorial is not the best move, because what you're essentially doing is if they've done any major mistakes, you're learning from somebody who's doing it wrong. So it can be lethal if that's what you're going to do. So what I'm going to do first is type in the blueprints. Just on Google. So from the blueprints, now what you can do is I can go on to theblueprints.com. So I should point out for your assignment, vector drawings are totally banned. You cannot do vector drawings at all. Vector drawings are basically all the drawings that you need, all done for you already. So you cannot do vector drawings. So let's choose something. Let me just go. Let's go bone. So I'm going to type bone. What this then does is it comes up with all different types of basically drawings. It comes up with flat imagery. So two-dimensional imagery, I should say. So if I click on click on foot bones, you'll notice vector drawings are for sale, and that's another reason why I don't allow vector drawings to be used. So we're not going to use vector drawings, we're just going to look at blueprints. So if I just go foot bones, for example, it brings that up. And that's all it will do, is it will bring up the foot bones. So let's say, for argument's sake, I I'm interested in the inferior aspect. Well, in fact, let's set them up and let's take a look. So from here now, what I can do is I can right click on the image. In fact, can I actually download that image? Right, so if I right click on the image, I'm going to go save image as. Can I bring it as a JPEG? I cannot bring it as a JPEG. Scheiße. So we go right click, save image as. That is not allowing me to download the swine. What I need this to be is not in PNG format, I need this to be in JPEG. Let's have a look what this is offering. So if I'll tell you what, let's go shoulder and collarbone. Is this going to allow me? Now, normally, that you don't hit so many issues like that. Yeah, that is not being very useful at all. Let me just try another one. That's awkward. So let's just try. This is all from the same supplier, I think. So I tell you what, let me just go motorcycle, see if that'll allow me to bring that down. It's not enough. Then that database was useless, so I'm just going to go humans. I'm just randomly going through everything now. So if I go anatomy, and then if I go let's go anatomy skeleton. Oh, what I'm essentially after is yeah, something like that actually, something like. I'm after just a JPEG, that's all I'm actually after. So I've got back muscles. This is really awkward. I was literally on this just the other day. Okay, let's do something nerdy. Let's just pick one, so let's go like that, and then let's have a look. Let's go, is that going to give me something useful? Oh, finally, that's something useful. It's irrelevant what I'm doing, but if I right click and save image as, and you'll see it's come down as a GIF. If I go onto my desktop and I'm just going to save that image. Now, what I now want to do is, with these imagery, I can split this into pieces. Personally, for years I've used Visual. If you've never used it before, I would 100% recommend this. This creates diagrams like you would not believe. The diagrams are so sexy that when you apply them into your work, you look and go, wow, I can't believe I made that. I'd 100% recommend this. If anybody's seen any of my presentations where I've got all drawings on the presentation, this is how I do it. I'm going to go insert, I'm going to add a picture, and let me go desktop, let me go my fighter, and click open, and that's what gets brought in. Now, there are 4 particular drawings to really display what it can do, so I'm going to copy, paste, 2, 3, 4, bring all them 4 in, and all I'm going to do is trim it down. So first things first, let's do a crop, and I want the top image. Then I'm going to do, well, really I took the side image, so that's the top image. And then what I'm going to do is go front, Now that's frustrating. This happens a lot. But you've got to remember these are being used as reference, that's all. They're not anything where it has to be completely bulletproof towards it. Now I've just chosen something incredibly nerdy, but the truth of it is you can get drawings of these of particular aircraft, of particular cars, particular anatomic features, which you could see there because I couldn't download the right imagery. So what I'll do is I'm just going to save, I'll go my top and I'll go my side profile, which is one of the, the biggies. So I'm going to I've clicked on the side profile and I'm just going to go save as, browse to my desktop, or browse to your design folder I should say, and I'm going to save it as a JPEG and I'm going to call this side. Click save. It asks me for the quality. I'm going to try and get the highest quality I can. Even though it's black and white, I want the highest quality that I can, because it is quite a well-defined drawing, really, to be fair. And I'm going to do the same on my top one as well. So I'm going to do save as, onto desktop, drop that down, and I'm going to call that top. And click OK. And then OK. And I'm just going to close, well in fact I won't close, I'll minimize that, and now what I do is if I'm starting a new part, I'm going to go from, which will be my right plane, so my YZ, I'm going to go sketch. And typically on SolidWorks it is an inserts, tools, sketch tools and picture. Here it is image. So all I'll do is go to my desktop and I'm going to go side image, click OK. Now you can see there how it's been brought in. I'll bring it there. And you look and you go, well, it's in the wrong orientation. You treat these as you treat any type of two-dimensional features that you're operating to. So what I'm going to do is rotate it. Set the rotation point. It normally has a real complaint if I set it here. Yes. And I'm obviously just going to rotate it 90 degrees. Oh, minus 90. Then click apply. And that is my first profile. Now I would never ever recommend anybody drawing straight onto it. So if I start sketching on here, the issue is you can get a bit annoyed with trying to turn stuff off and turn stuff on. I mean, this function here is great. I really like this, of where you can make the image visible, make it non-visible. I would always recommend turning this into its own entity. So what I mean is if I just click OK, bring this back, and then just call this side image, I'd always recommend that. It allows you to just have a playground, if you will, of particular places where you can move things around and you don't have to worry with everything else. If you want to properly constrain this to the center, you can draw construction lines onto there and literally move this by constraint. So there's one thing about this that I really do like, of that you've got that freedom to be able to do that. It's not a common one that I've personally seen. Right, so now what I'll do is, there's a few things I can do. I can either go put in a new plane, so if I do an offset plane from there and then bring that down, a little bit more, perhaps something like that, then click OK. Now if I go sketch and sketch again, I'm just going to go image, top. Okay. Now as this comes in, you can see there, instantly in the wrong direction. this knows we want to be sitting on the datum down here. So let's, first things first, rotate this round. So I click onto here, and I'm going to rotate it, pull it by this angle, and do it minus 90 degrees, which is good. Now we're in a position where we can choose how we want this to sit. Oops, didn't want that. I'm going to do it the proper way rather than messing around. So I'm going to click on the whole thing, click the point to move, and I'll click that. And then what I can do is just choose how that's going to be locked in. Something like. Really what I could do with doing is constraining that a little bit more. I've had students in the past spend weeks, and I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but they have spent weeks setting these up, and you should not really spend weeks doing these. This is just really just to give you a more comfort, a more of an overview as to where everything's going to be. You see there where I've got, it's not perfect, but it starts to give me an operational space. And again, I know this is just a nerdy spaceship, but what it does is it gives me key points. So if you look here, look at this line to here. If I wanted to extract that line, this is where you guys need to really practice with this. So let's say I want this edge there. If I just draw a line on there to there, and then I'm going to presume, based on how that looks and where that triangle is, that is the edge I was just referring to. So again, I can go up to there and then go sketch. And then bring, whoops, that was awkward. Then bring that line from there to there and confirm that edge. And what we've got is them two. So this is one of the reasons, by the way, why I like being able to just take that control. So I'm just going to rename that, by the way. So I'll call that top profile or top image. And if I minimize that, visible on that, and if I want these two sketches for an interface, what I can do is, where is it now? I've just forgotten where the hell I've put these two. There. So this is on. This is Inventor's way of being able to project the 2 points of the sketch. In SolidWorks, it's a little bit different. It presents you with a guide curve, and it's only a guide curve. However, this I find really good because what it will do is it instantly projects you with a curve that you can operate with directly. So this is one that I could operate with directly. So if I come back, and now I've just used these two, so I'm going to hide these now because I'm happy with that. Now if I want to just check to see if it's something that's usable, so I'll go back, make that visible, and then make my top side image visible. So visible. And if I spin to the back, well, if I spin round, then let's take a look and let's go to the top. Side. That's better. So if I go to the side, you see it's still meeting that edge of that line. If I go to the top, and I'm just going to have to make myself, I'll have to go to the bottom in this case. you see that it still meets the edge of that line. So what I mean is, just by this as a sketch, it's give me an edge that I can start to work with. If I wanted now, I could easily pull this edge out and then move around to looking at that edge, and then what I've actually got is the tip of the wing itself. This methodology is one that students have done for years and years, and it's a technique that I personally use as well if I need to be able to generate things. So when I've been asked before about how I generated the Iron Man armour, it's literally by doing this. So again, just as another demonstration of this, if I come from my XY plane and then I come out of my 3D sketch and go to sketch, and all I do is again just add a line between there to there, and then just for argument, so let's put it there, because then now we're getting cocky, you know. And what I'll do is put a fillet on there. It was just ironic that it was 2. Believe me, inventor's not that clever that it knew it was 2. So I'll click OK, and then what I'll do is spin it up. Again, do the exact same thing. Sketch from the top. And what I'm after now is this edge here to that. So what I'll do is do my line from there to there, and then over to, let's just take it right across there. Now, see there, I've gone a little bit too far, so I'll just bring that in a little bit like that. Then I come back, and I'll come back again, get to there, turn both of these off, and then I'm going to project these again. So I'll go 3D sketch, and I'm going to do intersection of you and you to give me you. So I'll just hide these, because I'm sure at least one of you has been thinking, can I not just tap these together? The answer is yes, I can. So if I edit this 3D sketch, because it's now editable, if I do an arc between, oh in fact, let's do an let's do an interpolation spline between there and there, and then click OK, and then all I need to do here is wish it was working. Oh, it's swine. Okay, let me just stick on an arc then. I was going to see if I could activate my handles, but it was just not playing ball. Stick it aligned. So if you're doing any type of work which is like this, if you're doing anything that you need to start generating specific profiles like this, if you're doing if you have imagery of anything, you can start to produce a perspective of how this thing will operate. So I mean, granted, all I'm doing now is closing the edges. If I finish on that sketch, now with that in mind, because I've now got this really bizarre profile, I can now start, I can actually at least put my first patch onto there to see how well it's going to function. So all I do with that is select all my edging, and there I've got my first part of my wing. So if I bring the imagery back in, come from the edging, flip it round so I can see it from the other side. Granted, what I think I've done there is not gone far enough up. I should have taken it a bit further than that. But when I look at the profile itself, I'm happy with it. Spin it over. I look at the profile itself, I'm very happy with it. It's one profile that I'd be happy with to now. I'll probably delete that patch and continue to build the wing up that little bit more. And that is sketch images. And that's the profile with sketch images. And I know it is literally tracing a geometry, but you will find yourselves in a position where you can generate complex geometry super quick. So I have recorded that, so let me just stop recording. I'm going to pause that.